Dr. Newman, we want to thank you for sitting down with us with your first interview with the Echo.
Thanks, Brysien. It's great to be here with you.
So why SNU? What made you come to Bethany to be the president?
Well, as I look back on my life, I've tried to do what I believe that God's asked me to do along the way. On the wall right here is a verse of Scripture that's a verse that my mother chose for me as a life verse. It's a verse that really comes from the story of Jesus changing the water into wine. And actually those are the words of Jesus' mother, Mary, who said to the servants, do whatever he tells you to do. So I've tried to do what I think God tells me to do, and it was kind of a long process in terms of actually getting here. It was an unexpected process or an unexpected result for me because I didn't think that Southern Nazarene University was in my future. It was in my past, but I didn't see it in my future. But really came to believe that this is what God was calling us to do, and that calling has been confirmed a number of times since I've been here.
You are the new president. You haven't been here long. Is there anything that has surprised you about SNU?
The thing that probably has surprised me is the openness to change. When you follow a president that has been at an institution for 28 years as president and 50 years as an employee, I think there could be the anticipation that maybe people would struggle with making changes. But I've found everybody to be really open to change so far, which is probably a good thing because I like change.
I do know that you've been all over the world. So where are your favorite places to travel?
Wow. Well, I have had the opportunity to visit all 50 states. I've been to most parts of the world. Australia and New Zealand were highlights. Had the chance to climb the Sydney Bridge, which is a crazy story, probably too long to tell today, but most everybody's seen the Sydney Bridge right there by the Opera House. A lot of times New Year's Eve they celebrate there because they're 18 hours ahead of us, and so typically they show fireworks going off there, and there's the ability to actually climb to the top of the Sydney Bridge, and through a crazy set of circumstances I had the chance to do that. But I've also been on the Great Wall in China, and I've been to China 3 times I think, and that was a great experience too. Beijing, a city of 25 million people, which even after having been there, I still have a hard time getting my head around it. It has 6 loops or rings around the city, traffic rings around the city, and it's an amazing place. And I've been all over China. So maybe, I don't know that I have a favorite place, because I honestly like everywhere. I've been to St. Andrews, and the home of golf, and the origins of the game of golf, and that was a really special time too.
So we know that you were once a police officer. What did you learn in the police force that helped you to becoming a president for SNU?
Well, I think being a police officer teaches you a lot of things. People have kind of an image of what you do with police work, but probably more than anything, it teaches you that you've got to really understand a variety of responsibilities and roles. And there are moments when, yes, you're involved in law enforcement, but then there are other moments where you're involved in education, or you're involved in social work, or you're, trying to provide medical service. So I think the presidency of a university involves a lot of diversity, and no 2 days are the same. So I think early on as a police officer, I got a good understanding of the fact that you could plan for a day, but it was going to be different. And then my last 6 years as a police officer, I was a homicide detective, and so I was investigating murder cases. And I think there's a lot that applies to being a president too. What we do is not complicated here, but what we do is really complex. And so trying to figure that out, how do we do that in the right mix of financial aid and the right mix of majors and athletics and student life. And for Southern Nazarene University, we have not only residential students here on this campus, but we've also got students that are studying online, and we have students that are attending our education center in Tulsa. So there's a lot that goes into the presidency, and You don't have to be an expert in any of those things, because there are lots of people out there that are experts, but it serves you well if you know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
You spoke of diversity with you in the police force. In the past couple of years, SNU has become pretty diverse. What do you feel like SNU could do to help with people of many backgrounds in the near coming future?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it's a really important one. We're in the process of doing some strategic planning right now, and diversity is, and I would add diversity and inclusion, because I think diversity in and of itself is not enough. You can be diverse, but you haven't included folks. And so it's really important that people feel like that this is their home, that this is their community, that they're a part of this place. And so I think the first thing we have to do is we have to learn to celebrate diversity. Oftentimes we tend to look around and we look for people that look like us. And there's probably some comfort in that. Interesting that the word diversity and the word divide come from the same root word. And oftentimes that's what happens, is that diversity divides us. But I think if we can understand that this is the way that God created the kingdom, that when we get to heaven, there are not going to be special places for people of certain races. We're going to all be there together. That diversity was His idea, not our idea. And then really understand that we can learn from each other. We have a lot of work to do here, honestly. The student body is very diverse, but I would say that our faculty and staff are not. And we're very aware of that. I'm very aware of that coming in as president. I want to make sure that we put the most qualified people in the classroom, in coaches' positions, in financial aid, in the business office, wherever you're talking about. But I think diversity goes beyond just racial diversity. We are owned by the Church of the Nazarene. That's our heritage. The Church of the Nazarene, actually prior to the Church of the Nazarene, which didn't get started until 1908, SNU got started. It wasn't named SNU in those days, but it got started in 1899. But from our beginning, we've always been a place of opportunity. We've always been a place of service. And I want to see us continue that. But we've also probably been a place that for most of our years, we've been primarily white. And for many, many years, we were white and we were also Nazarene. I think this is an opportunity for us to serve people of all ethnicities and all denominations. Again, we love the Church of the Nazarene. We're grateful for their support. Everybody that goes to school here pays less to go to school here because of the Church of the Nazarene and the financial commitment that the Church of the Nazarene makes. But also know that the Church of the Nazarene has always been a place that's wanted to throw their doors wide open as it relates to education. So regardless of somebody's ethnicity, regardless of somebody's denominational affiliation, I want to create a place that they feel welcomed, affirmed, and they get the very best in education.
What challenges do you see SNU facing in the near future? And as a follow-up, what opportunities do you see?
Great question. I love to talk about challenges and opportunities together, so I'm glad that you put those together, because the truth is, I think in life, most every challenge you face really can be turned into an opportunity. So when I look to the future, I think about the way that higher education is changing, the advent of online education, the technology. We've just seen the new iPhone 10 that's been introduced for $1,000, and that seems like just a really crazy price. And yet I'm sure that there are going to be people that are already standing in line to get that. But things like the smartphone have changed the way that we do everything. There's not really any class that you could go to that if you were asked a question in class that was some sort of even a technical question, that with a smartphone you couldn't find the answer. I think some of the bigger questions in life, the more important questions in life, the really life-defining questions, you can't answer with an iPhone. I'll give you an example. Jesus talking to his disciples, and he says, who do you say that I am? Ultimately, that's one of the biggest questions that any of us can ask or answer in life, is who do we believe Jesus is? And that's not something you can answer with an iPhone. So I think there's always going to be a place for a what we would call today a traditional residential education. But I think education on campuses is going to change as well. I think there's going to be a mixture of coming and living on campus and being a part of a campus community, enjoying athletics and enjoying being in the dining hall or participating in SGA, but you may take an online class from your residence hall room as well. I think maybe the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity that we face is really the value of a Christ-centered education. A lot of people will look and say, well, if I stayed home and went to community college, I could do it a lot, for a lot less money. And while that's true, I think there's a challenge there, but there's also an opportunity. And the opportunity for us is to be able to communicate the value of what takes place on a campus like this. I would venture to say that if you talk to most people that graduated from a Christ-centered educational institution, they would tell you that they learned as much in chapel, or they learned as much in the dining hall, or they learned as much in the residence hall, or maybe on a trip to England or Costa Rica, flying on a plane, having a conversation with a professor at a professor's home, as they did in the classroom. That's not something that you're going to get when you go to a community college. So we've got to find a better way to overcome the challenge of thinking that this education is too expensive.
Outside of your professional life, what do you find most rewarding?
Well, definitely being a dad. My family, I love being a dad, love being a grandfather now. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and I have a son who's married. Both he and his wife graduated from Nazarene University. My son's a wildlife biologist, and it's just been fun to watch him grow up and find his own way and become a dad. So, watching him be a dad after being his dad or still being his dad has been a very meaningful thing. And being a grandparent is just an awesome experience, probably maybe my favorite thing in life. And then a daughter who graduated from Southern Nazarene University, and then she spent a year in South Korea teaching English as a second language, and now lives in Austin. And she's engaged and getting married next June 23rd. And so watching her grow up as well, without question, that's it. And celebrating 35 years of marriage in just a few months. Met my wife at the police department many years ago. She was a police officer as well. She was a homicide detective. And so a little piece of trivial information there for some, but definitely that would be what would be the most rewarding and most fulfilling for me is family.
So, Prof. Smith, he always asks us what's our favorite movie. So for him, we want to know, what is your favorite movie?
Well, I'll tell you, but I want to know your favorite movie before I answer the question.
It just came out, Baby Driver. The best.
Baby Driver.
The best. Awesome. Just I don't really like movies, but that movie made me go back and watch it like 3 times. So that's probably gonna be my favorite movie forever.
Oh, awesome. My favorite movie is a movie that it's an older movie now, but the title of it is A River Runs Through It, and it's based on a book, and it's a book about really 2 brothers, their dad, who's a minister, and their mom, and it is the metaphor that is used throughout the movie is fly fishing, and I love fly fishing. That's my favorite thing to do if I have a chance outside of work, just for fun, is fly fishing. But the river that they, at least the men of the family, find themselves on several points in the movie serves as kind of a centering force and a lot of lessons about life. So I think that's my favorite movie. But I like movies, so I've got some other favorites too.
Dr. Newman, we want to thank you again for the interview, and we look forward to your tenure as our president.
Thank you very much.
You.